With the end of an era approaching, Manchester City finds itself facing one of the most decisive moments in its recent history. The legendary midfielder Kevin De Bruyne, a key figure in so many triumphs, is about to wear the sky blue shirt for the last time. While the eyes of the world turn to his farewell, behind the scenes the club's board is working intensively to write the next chapter of this victorious story. De Bruyne, whose arrival at City from Wolfsburg cost the English club around $54 million in 2015, became a symbol of excellence in football. For years he dictated the tempo, delivered pinpoint passes, scored decisive goals, and established himself as the brain of Guardiola's team. But now, at 33 years old, and with concrete offers on the table, his journey in Manchester seems to have come to an end. Italian club Napoli emerges as one of the most likely destinations for the Belgian star. Sources indicate that the Neapolitan club's directors are ready to make a bold move, offering an attractive contract to lure De Bruyne to Serie A. The chance to play alongside Romelu Lukaku and be coached by Antonio Conte, who has already declared admiration for the Belgian, makes the proposal even more tempting. Conte, in fact, did not hold back praise years ago when he said Kevin was one of the most complete players in the world. But the competition is not limited to the European continent. Chicago Fire, from Major League Soccer, has also submitted a proposal. The American team intends to make De Bruyne their main star, a move both marketing and football-wise that underscores the league's ambition to grow in international prestige. The decision now rests with the player and his family, to seek a new challenge on European soil or to start a new life in North America in a league that is expanding. Meanwhile, on Manchester's blue side, the behind-the-scenes activity does not stop. The club's board, aware of the difficulty in replacing an idol like De Bruyne, is exploring alternatives in the market. The priority is clear: to find someone capable of, if not matching, at least carrying part of the legacy left by Kevin in City's midfield. Initially, the main target was Florian Wirtz, the young sensation of German football. His tactical intelligence, creativity, and ability to decide matches made him the ideal choice to succeed De Bruyne. However, negotiations hit an insurmountable barrier: the high fee demanded by his current club. Bayern Munich, quick on the trigger, advanced negotiations, and City, faced with the exorbitant figures, opted to step back. Given this deadlock, the name Morgan Gibbs-White, from Nottingham Forest, began gaining traction in the corridors of the Etihad. At just 24 years old, the player has been attracting attention for his maturity on the pitch, versatility, and impressive development in recent seasons. Thomas Tuchel, a coach of international renown, has called him an extraordinary player, recognition that does not go unnoticed in Manchester. Pep Guardiola, known for his keen eye for emerging talents, also seems convinced of Gibbs-White's qualities. The conversation between the two after the FA Cup semi-final on Wembley's turf was no mere formality. Internally, at Nottingham Forest, speculation is already rife that the player's days at the club are numbered. City's board is aware of the resale clause from Wolverhampton, Morgan's previous club, and knows they will have to pay around $70 million to complete the transfer, $16 million more than the amount paid for De Bruyne nearly a decade ago. A direct comparison between the two may not be fair. De Bruyne arrived at City already as a rising star. Gibbs-White, on the other hand, is still seeking affirmation at the highest level. But times have changed. Market values have soared and, in an increasingly inflated Premier League, paying $70 million for a promising talent is no longer seen as an exaggeration, but as a strategic necessity. Furthermore, another name is emerging strongly as a possible replacement: Dani Olmo. The Spanish midfielder, with spells at RB Leipzig and Dinamo Zagreb, possesses qualities that captivate Guardiola: vision, constant movement, and the ability to adapt to different roles in midfield. With an estimated value of $60 million, Olmo represents a more financially viable alternative than Wirtz. And the fact that Barcelona, his supposed initial destination, is facing financial difficulties opens the door for City to enter the race firmly. Negotiations with Olmo are reportedly in an advanced stage, with frequent talks between the players' representatives and the English club's directors. The prospect of working with Guardiola weighs positively, and there is growing expectation that an agreement will be sealed before the transfer window closes. While all this is happening, City's fans watch with apprehension and hope. On one side, the imminent farewell of an icon. On the other, the promise of a bold renewal, with young names full of potential taking the lead in one of the most dominant teams in Europe in recent years. At this moment of transition, other players also see their futures in question. Jack Grealish, for example, is going through a period of uncertainty. After a forgettable season marked by injuries and loss of place in the squad, the English attacking midfielder may be leaving. With only 6 minutes on the pitch against Bournemouth and absence from the FA Cup final, it is clear his situation is far from ideal. Gary Neville, former player and now commentator, even suggested that Grealish consider an international transfer, following the example of Trent Alexander-Arnold. Italy, Spain, or Germany are plausible options, with Milan being the main interested party among European clubs. Internally, Aston Villa, Tottenham, and Newcastle have also shown interest. Saudi Arabia even probed the player, but it is unlikely he will take that path if he wants to remain relevant for the England national team. The summer promises to be busy. City's squad rebuild will not be limited to midfield. Young prospects such as James McAtee and Claudio Echeverri are also expected to have their futures decided, whether through loans or sales. The goal is clear: to keep the club competitive on all fronts, even without the unmistakable brilliance of De Bruyne at the center of the action. Kevin De Bruyne's departure marks more than just the farewell of an extraordinary player. It symbolizes the transition to a new cycle within Manchester City. It is not merely a question of replacing talent on the pitch, but of redefining an identity shaped by a decade under the creative leadership of the Belgian midfielder. He did not simply play the game, he orchestrated it. And now, with his probable transfer to Napoli or MLS, the club needs to fill not only a position, but an emotional and technical void. In the dressing room, the atmosphere reflects the gravity of the moment. For many of the younger players, De Bruyne was a silent example of professionalism. His departure may represent an opportunity for growth, but it also reveals the challenge of maintaining the standard he set. For Phil Foden, for instance, this is the moment when expectations rise. Despite a fluctuating season, he ended on a high and won the Premier League Player of the Season award. The inevitable question now is he ready to inherit the creative leadership role left by Kevin? Guardiola, meanwhile, watches everything with the calmness of someone who has faced difficult transitions before. Since his arrival at City, he has always believed in reshaping the squad with intelligence and patience. His faith in young talent is well known, but he also recognizes that certain moments call for bold moves in the transfer market. That is why, even after the failed attempt to sign Florian Wirtz, he remains firmly focused on renewal. Talks regarding Dani Olmo are progressing, and the Spaniard could be more than just a technical reinforcement. He could become a new tactical axis. The combination of his agility, ability to infiltrate between the lines, and finishing skill from outside the box offers Guardiola a hybrid profile, somewhere between a classic number 10 and an inverted winger. The presence of versatile players is, after all, a central characteristic of Pep's system. While City organize themselves internally, external market activity shows no signs of slowing. Morgan Gibbs-White remains on the radar as a player who can add depth and creativity to the squad. His style of play differs from De Bruyne, less cerebral, more instinctive. However, there is an advantage in that. He represents a new model of English midfielder, technical, aggressive in pressing, and capable of taking responsibility in decisive moments. Signals from Nottingham Forest indicate that Gibbs-White's departure is only a matter of time. The discomfort caused after his meeting with Guardiola, even if informal, made it clear to the Forest squad that interests are aligned with a potential move. And with the club owner willing to reinvest any funds raised, the sale has become viable on all fronts. emotional, financial, and sporting. But Manchester City's reconstruction is not limited to arrivals. The European summer is also expected to bring significant departures, and Jack Grealish remains a sensitive point in this equation. His multi-million-pound signing has not translated into prominence on the pitch. With few decisive performances this season and the manager's confidence in him shaken, his future is uncertain. Gary Neville's words resonated strongly among supporters. He did not merely suggest a club change for Grealish, but a change of context, culture, and expectation. Italian football, for example, could offer him a different rhythm of play and more space to shine technically. AC Milan, seeking to rejuvenate their squad with players capable of making the difference, see Jack as a potential key piece to restore European brilliance. For City, Grealish's exit would also mean space in the budget and squad for new names. With plans that envisage 4 to 5 new signings, each departure is analyzed carefully. Those arriving must bring immediate technical value and growth potential. This reinforces the idea that the club does not seek just big names, but players who fit the playing model. Besides Dani Olmo and Gibbs White, other names are emerging behind the scenes as alternative options. Some rumors point to interest in players from League One and even the Portuguese league, especially young talents with good tactical understanding. Guardiola knows that City's new era cannot depend exclusively on ready-made stars. The future must be shaped, as was done with names like Bernardo Silva and João Cancelo years ago. At the same time, the role of the Champions League in this process cannot be underestimated. Qualification for the next edition of the tournament is seen as essential not only for prestige, but for the ability to attract and convince high-level reinforcements. The victory against Bournemouth, under a farewell atmosphere for De Bruyne, was crucial in this regard. It sealed more than 3 points. It guaranteed a promise of continuity at the top. While supporters are still coming to terms with the imminent departure of one of the club's greatest idols, an ambiguous feeling hangs in the air, nostalgia mixed with curiosity. What will City be like without De Bruyne? Who will command play in midfield? Will Dani Olmo and Gibbs White be able to handle the task? Will Phil Foden finally take on the role of protagonist? The answer, of course, will take some time. But one thing is certain. Manchester City, even in the face of the biggest transition since David Silva's retirement and company's exit, holds firmly to its essence. A club that does not fear change. On the contrary, it anticipates it. The rebuilding of Manchester City, like any major restructuring, is not limited to just player signings and sales. It extends behind the scenes to the club's culture and the strengthening of its strategic pillars. Kevin De Bruyne's departure symbolizes the end of a golden era, but it also puts pressure on the club to ensure the next phase is equally brilliant, if not more so. The plan is not improvised. Since the first rumors about De Bruyne's possible transfer, City's scouting department has intensified its monitoring of talent in less saturated markets. Guardiola, known for his meticulous eye, looks for players who not only fit into his tactical scheme, but also bring unique characteristics. He doesn't want a copy of Kevin. He wants a new reference, with its own identity. In this regard, the approach to Dani Olmo is strategic. The Spanish midfielder has already proven his versatility in several positions, from attacking midfield to the left flank, and has shown maturity in big games, whether for the Spanish national team or RB Leipzig. His experience in European competitions is another differential, and the fact that he played in Croatian football before the Bundesliga reveals his adaptability, a quality Guardiola values deeply. Meanwhile, Morgan Gibbs White emerges as a different asset. He wouldn't come to be the new De Bruyne, but to offer an alternative style. Players like him, with grit, the ability to break lines, and an offensive mentality, have an essential role in tight games, when creativity and courage become weapons as important as talent. His performance at Nottingham Forest, even in a team battling relegation, drew attention for its consistency and personality. But the succession process within City is not limited to external names. Internally, there is growing expectation around the development of young prospects such as James McAtee and the Argentine Claudio Echeverri. The latter, despite not yet having officially debuted for the first team, is seen as a future protagonist. His skill on the ball and early game reading are living reminders of a young Messi at the start of his career. It is still early, of course, but City's project foresees time and patience for Echeverri to grow under Guardiola's tutelage. This transition process also requires a shift in the supporters' mindset. Used to De Bruyne's constant presence as the commander of attacking actions, fans will need to open up to new possibilities, new connections on the pitch. Football is made of cycles, and clubs that manage to navigate these phases without losing their identity are the ones that stay at the top. The club's management knows this, and that is why it bets on balance, maintaining an experienced backbone with names like Rodri, Bernardo Silva, and Ruben Dias, while offering space for new leadership to emerge. Foden is the main name of this new generation, but there is also Julian Alvarez, increasingly involved, and even less talked about names like Oscar Bob, who have impressed in training. This mix of youth and experience is one of the reasons why City has managed to maintain a high level of competitiveness even in turbulent moments. And of course, there is Guardiola. His leadership is, in itself, a guarantee of organization and ambition. Few managers in the world can keep a squad so motivated and tactically disciplined season after season. Regarding the market, City knows the European summer will be decisive. The club is prepared to invest heavily if necessary, but also willing to step back when prices become unsustainable, as was the case with Florian Wirtz. The young German seemed to be the ideal piece, but Bayern Munich's involvement and the unrealistic price made City withdraw without hesitation. This quick move towards alternatives like Dani Olmo shows the maturity of the project. The club does not get carried away by hype. It prefers decisions based on analysis, tactical compatibility, and growth potential. That is why there is confidence that, even without De Bruyne, City will not only remain competitive, but will be able to reinvent itself. Meanwhile, the situation with Grealish continues to be intensely debated. Guardiola knows Jack can still deliver a lot. His ball control, his ability to attract marking and open space for teammates are rare qualities. But at the same time, the lack of minutes, behind-the-scenes rumors, and growing internal competition indicate that a change of scenery might be best for all parties. If Grealish chooses to leave, it will be a mutual decision, not a forced one. Clubs like Milan and Atletico Madrid are closely monitoring his situation, and the interest is genuine. Even Premier League teams, such as Aston Villa and Newcastle, are willing to bring him back, but the player's desire will be decisive. He must choose between the security of staying and trying to regain space or the challenge of starting something new in another culture and rhythm of play. While decisions are yet to be announced, supporters live a whirlwind of emotions. The end of the season brought achievements, tributes, farewells, and speculation. A typical storyline of a football giant. The statue of De Bruyne, which will surely soon be erected alongside Company Silva and Aguero, will be a constant reminder of what was built and how much more can still be achieved. This is how Manchester City moves forward, eyes on the future but without forgetting its roots. A club that has learned to win, that has evolved in structure, mentality, and ambition, and that is now preparing to write a new chapter, with new faces, new ideas, and the same commitment to excellence. And so, my fellow City supporter, we close another chapter of this intense saga involving the present and future of our beloved Manchester City. Amid emotional farewells, tough decisions, and new names appearing on the horizon, one thing is certain. The club is more alive than ever, and the coming months promise to be full of action, emotion, and twists. If you enjoyed this content and want to keep following every step of our team's rebuilding, every behind-the-scenes detail, every signing, and every decisive moment, don't forget, leave your like down below. It really helps us keep bringing quality information to you with dedication and that touch of passion every fan understands. And of course, if you're not subscribed yet, take the chance now and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos. Because here, you stay up to date with everything happening with the biggest club in the Premier League. Thank you very much for following along so far. See you in the next video. And as always, let's go City!